Okay, so a couple weeks ago I reviewed a Marvel movie. It is called The Fantastic Four: First Steps. Thought it was pretty good. It felt like a tier one kind of, not tier one, like a phase one Marvel movie all over again. Really good introduction to all these characters, cool setting, decent villain, a little bit of miscasting on the part of Reed Richards because Pedro Pascal is contractually required to be in every major franchise now. So now we get Thunderbolts. And when I say now, I mean before Fantastic Four. This movie came out like several months ago. So I'm reviewing a movie that came out before the last one. Doesn't make much sense. Sorry about that, but let's talk about Thunderbolts. Before we get started, thank you so much for watching the video. Click on the red subscribe button, notification bell. That way you know whenever I post new content. You can also follow me on Rumble, X, and Instagram. Okay, I have been highly critical of all things Marvel since Endgame. I really liked Deadpool and Wolverine. I really liked Fantastic Four: First Steps. What else did I really like? I really liked Spider-Man: No Way Home. I think that's kind of like most of it. I reviewed a lot of these projects. I reviewed the first season of Loki. I reviewed Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I've talked about all of these various projects in some form or another. Some of them I haven't watched. I think part of the challenge that Marvel has gone through is in 2020, when everyone was stuck at home because of COVID, all of these major companies embraced streaming whole cloth, threw all the money at it. So Marvel and Disney were stuck in a bind because they felt like they needed to move into like series. So they did Moon Knight, they did New Daredevil, they did She-Hulk, which I heard was trash. Falcon and the Winter Soldier I thought was mostly garbage. They've just like Ironheart I've heard is terrible. So they've just been, instead of putting out like a couple movies a year and all of them are really good, you have a couple of movies a year and all of them are like either bad or okay. And then you have a bunch of shows that are mostly garbage. So it's a far cry from where Marvel ended the Infinity Saga. And Avengers Doomsday is going to be next year. And I have no idea how they're going to do this. No idea if they will successfully be able to pull it off. But here we are. So a couple weeks ago, talked about Fantastic Four. Now it's Thunderbolts, even though this movie came out several months ago. I thought it was pretty good. There was a weird amount of like hype because it did okay. It still lost hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office. But from a review standpoint, audiences seemed to enjoy it. The people that did go see it, and critics thought it was pretty good. And I think it's pretty good. I don't think this is like top tier, S tier Marvel, but it's fine. I think part of the problem that this movie has inherent in its nature right off the bat is that it's pulling from a bunch of sources and a bunch of other parts of the MCU that suck, right? So the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you now have John Walker, who's like a really cool character, but he came from a show that's just not that great. You have Florence Pugh, who I think is delightful and wonderful, and she's pretty good in this. She's always a great actress in pretty much everything she does, but she's coming from Black Widow, a movie that Marvel shoved onto Disney Plus and forced Scarlett Johansson to sue them, and it kind of sucked. So you're unfortunately like pulling all of these things. Like there's the ghost chick from the second Ant-Man. You also have Taskmaster. So you're pulling from like Marvel projects that aren't necessarily good and smashing them all together. You have the Red Guardian, also from Black Widow. And as a result, you have an interesting movie where all of those team members like come together fairly well, but not nearly as well as they should because the source material they come from just kind of bites. So the plot of this movie is really interesting because it seems much more low stakes than kind of every Marvel movie I've watched so far. There is a moment where the stakes are like extremely high for a lot of people, and then they're kind of not again, and then the movie is over. I think this movie does something that's really interesting, which is it introduces a very unique and different character that feels kind of out of place, but I really think is cool, and that's introducing the Sentry, which is just a dude named Bob, played by Bill Pullman's son, Louis Pullman. He's pretty good. He's really good at playing like the kind of clueless and helpless, pathetic Bob. But then when he transforms into the Sentry, he has this alter ego, sort of like a second side of him called the Void, that is like completely terrifying and just nothing but like sadness, depression, and destruction. So the movie touches on some very interesting things like domestic abuse and yeah. So I think the movie like doesn't have the stakes because it doesn't really follow like your traditional kind of story arc, in that yes, there are bad guys, and yes, there's like there's a couple antagonists, but they never really like get interesting things to do or interesting stories of their own. Like if you're gonna do a good villain, give them a character arc. That's the best thing to do. But this movie, they're just kind of here, not really posing much of a threat at all. And it really like kind of makes the movie significantly less interesting, which I thought was a little bit fascinating. So I like Thunderbolts. I didn't hate it. This movie is not a bad movie. It's just kind of like good. I think this movie could have been great if the characters that we had like some previous history that was more interesting. And I think it could have been very good with some changes to the story. So it's a good movie that could have been good, and it could have been great, but it just ends up being good. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, found it helpful, I hope you would consider subscribing. Again, you can follow me on X, Instagram, and Rumble, and I'll see you next Saturday, same time at 9 a.m.